Good morning, YouTube. This is He Knows His Sport. I'm here to talk to you about the NBA playoffs, matchups, and my predictions for the first round. Okay, let's go to the first team in the Eastern Conference. We got the Indiana versus the Atlanta Hawks. My summary of this series, if Indiana brings it, I believe they'll win in 5 games. But the way that Indiana's been playing as of late, the weakened state, as I previously discussed, if they don't bring it, if Roy Hibbert comes up short, I got Indiana winning at the most 6 games. Atlanta is the 8th seed, obviously. They're probably not a team that a lot of people are going to respect. I think they have a lot to prove. Jeff Teague is a really good point guard, but that's where the buck stops with them. So I believe they'll be beaten at 5, no later than 6 games. Then we go to the second matchup, the Miami Heat versus the Charlotte Bobcats. As I previously stated, this team right here, they can give the Miami Heat fits. You got Al Jefferson, who is a double-doubles king. You have Kemba Walker. He's obviously going to be a problem. You know, and I've said it before, when you play against the Miami Heat, you have to have a big man that can put the ball in the basket and a big man that can cause matchup nightmares. That will give the Miami Heat issues because everyone knows that they're a horrible rebounding team. And obviously, Kemba Walker, with his athleticism, he will be able to be a thorn in Mario Chalmers and in Norris Cole's Thistle. But the reality is, he is a streaky player, so I don't expect too much from him. I expect eventually for Norris Cole and Mario Chalmers to figure him out because they've been there and they've done that. You know, when you, it's a thing to be said when you've been in the playoffs the last 2 years and you kind of understand the flow of how your team plays. As long as Norris Cole and Mario Chalmers bring their Miami Heat type of point guard play, they'll be able to neutralize Kemba Walker, and I believe that that series will end in 5 games. If the Charlotte is lucky, they'll probably push it to 6, but my projections are going to be 5 games on that series. Then you have the next matchup, Toronto and Brooklyn. Now, I've been on record saying that Toronto is a pretender, and I will continue to say it. They are pretenders. Brooklyn's going to beat this team in 5 games. And the reason why I believe they will beat them in 5 games is because Brooklyn, their whole thing is to play the Miami Heat. That's what they're geared up for. So they're going to make sure that they dispatch this team as quickly as possible so that they can prepare themselves for the second round matchup that everyone is excited for. That's probably going to be the most watched second round matchup, which is the Miami Heat and the Brooklyn Nets. I give the Toronto Raptors 0.09% chance to win that series. Then you have the last matchup in the East. This one's going to be entertaining. It's Chicago versus Washington. I got Chicago in 6. And the reason why I got Chicago winning in 6 is because Derrick Rose is not there. I mean, that's the obvious fact. And with Derrick Rose not in the lineup, the Bulls cannot score. The scouting report on the Chicago Bulls is, although they have the most stingiest defense in the NBA, they have a tough time putting the ball in the basket. And I believe that Washington Wizards, with athletic players and guys on the perimeter that can give you trouble, like a John Wall, guys like a Bradley Beal, it's going to be an issue for the Chicago Bulls to deal with that. And then you got Nene coming back down low. I mean, he just came back from an injury. It's yet to be determined what condition he's going to be in. I mean, if he's in tip-top shape, then that would be a different story. But I don't know what condition he's going to be in. But the reality is, I got the Bulls winning that series. It's going to be tough for them only because of the fact that they don't have Derrick Rose. So I got the Bulls winning that series in 6 games. Now let's shoot over to the Western Conference. The first matchup, San Antonio versus Dallas. You can never knock Dirk Nowitzki. I was one of the people back in the days that used to knock him. He proved me wrong. I thought after 2006 he was a bona fide choker. But he shut me up pretty good. In 2011, we all know, Murder, She Wrote. You know, Dirk Nowitzki was able to put it to the Miami Heat in 6 games. When you have a guy like that, and you got Rick Carlisle at the helm of coaching, you could never count out the Dallas Mavericks. Although I think the Dallas Mavericks will push San Antonio to its limits, and this will be a 6-game series. I don't have the San Antonio Spurs losing this series because obviously they've swept this team in the regular season, and San Antonio's on a mission. The way that the finals ended for them last year, you obviously can see that they're very hungry and they want retribution. So I got San Antonio winning that series. It's going to be tough, but I have them winning in 6. Now let's go to the next one. OKC versus Memphis. You know, a lot of people are making hoopla about, oh, this is going to be a hard series for the Oklahoma City Thunder. I don't think so. Yes, the OKC has matchup problems against Zach Randolph, and they have matchup problems against Marc Gasol, and thereby they will be exposed by that. But the reality is, Marc Gasol and Zach Randolph are going to be occupied. They're going to be worn out defensively because they're going to have to deal with Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. Those two guys are onslaughts. They're going to keep bringing the pressure. They're going to keep putting pressure on the defense. And they ultimately are going to be beating their men. So that's going to cause Zach Randolph and Marc Gasol to have to play a whole lot more help defense than they normally would have to play. So because of that, because of Kevin Durant's evolution, because of his ascension, in my opinion, as him being the premier player in the league, and then Russell Westbrook, now that Derrick Rose, because we have to respect Derrick Rose. Everybody's saying, oh, Derrick Rose, everybody's saying that Russell Westbrook's the most athletic player in the NBA. Get that crap out of here. Derrick Rose is the most athletic player. But because he's not playing, yes, Russell Westbrook, now you can consider him the most athletic player in the NBA. And with what he can do on a daily night, this guy can give you in the upwards of 20. Sometimes, depending on how hot he is, he can give you in the 30s and 40s. Yes, sometimes he can be a sporadic player. But if he brings it, I don't see this series going past 5 games, if you ask me. I know that's a bold prediction, but OKC, those two guys have too much firepower for the Memphis Grizzlies to deal with. And then the lingering fact that the Memphis Grizzlies do not have Lionel Hollins no more. I mean, come on. OKC should win that series. It should be easy work for them. Now let's get to the next series. The Clippers versus Golden State. I think this right here is going to be the hardest series in the playoffs. I think the Splash Brothers, there's a thing that they have to say about, you know, the Clippers. One knock on the Clippers is that, you know, they're soft, they're weak. Blake Griffin was exposed last year. He's been labeled as a soft player. Although I have high hopes for him, I think he's going to average maybe about 22 points and 9.5 rebounds because I think he has a lot to prove. I still think that they're just a Lob City team. They're not a team that can defensively, you know, own themselves on teams. They don't have the defensive awareness that you need, the defensive intensity, the consistency on the defensive end to lock a team down and to be able to win a series. They're too much Lob City, and everybody knows when the playoffs come around, the games slow down. That's not conducive to the Clippers style. I got this series going to 7 games. This right here is going to be the most exciting series in the first round. And surprisingly so, I got the Golden State Warriors being the upset. I think they're going to beat the LA Clippers. Yes, I said it. The Golden State Warriors are going to win in 7 games. They're going to beat LA Clippers on their home floor. This is the only upset that I have in the first round. And then the last series, we got Houston versus Portland. I got Houston winning this series in 6. I think although Portland has been playing bad as of late in the second half of the regular season, boy, they have declined like crazy. Damian Lillard and LaMarcus Aldridge are 2 players that are not to be trifled with. I believe that those 2 players are going to bring it. Damian Lillard is a player that's very athletic. You know, he plays the game with fluidity at the point guard position. I expect him to do big things. LaMarcus Aldridge, he's a nearly unstoppable player when he's on his A game. He has footwork. Some of the footwork that he has is some of the footwork I haven't seen since Hakeem Olajuwon. Now, I'm going to say it's on Olajuwon's level, but it's close to what I've seen Olajuwon was able to do. This guy, when he gets the ball and he puts it on the floor, and he puts that first step on you, good night. But the reality is James Harden will be too much, you know. And it's not just the beard aspect of it. James Harden has a killer game. He's a tenacious offensive player. Yes, he's a liability on the defensive end, but he makes up for that in his offensive prowess. He's going to keep bringing the ball to the basket. He's going to keep drawing those contact. He's going to keep getting those foul calls. I won't be surprised if he averages about 12, 13 free throws per game. And then you got Dwight Howard, a guy that a lot of people wrote off, a big goof troop. That's what I call him, a big goofball. A lot of people are going to, have written him off. A lot of people don't expect big things from this guy, but I think he's going to put up big numbers because he has a lot to prove, especially last year with his outing with the Lakers. He really wasn't successful the way that he played. I mean, he really disappointed a lot of people, and he exposed himself as to be somewhat of a premature bust. So I think there's a lot to be said on his end to prove the doubters wrong and to put everybody on notice that, you know what, he is not a goofy player and that he can take care of his business on the basketball court. So I expect double-double numbers from him, and I expect him to be the defensive player of the year that he once was. So I got Houston winning that series in 6 games. All in all, this is going to be the first round is going to be exciting. There's not going to be any short series. The only short series that I have is OKC and Brooklyn. Other than that, every other series should go 6 games, with the Clippers and the Golden State going to 7 games. This is the time that everyone loves as an NBA fan. They love the playoffs. You love these matchups because at the end of the day, you want to see how coaches can, make their substitutions on the fly. You want to see how players adjust to the intensity that another team is bringing to them. You want to see how players can exploit the defenses that are brought in front of them. You want to see how superstars raise to the occasion. You want to see what type of role players are going to step up and assist their superstars in high order fashion. I love the NBA. As a basketball fan, I believe that this is a very exciting year for the playoffs because finally the Miami Heat, they get to go through a hard road. The last 2 years, they've seen some easy routes going to the finals. So I'm happy that, they got at the seed that they're at. I'm happy with the matchups that they're going through. Because now we're really going to see what this team is about. We're really going to see if this team is the Heatles, like everybody say that they are, or if this team is a pretender. All in all, if the NBA doesn't get involved, if the NBA does not rig the system, because they love to rig the system, and they don't treat the Miami Heat like the darlings that they want to treat them as, and it's a level playing field, the Miami Heat should lose. But I'm speaking to you as a basketball fan. But as a basketball realist, I know the NBA is going to put their hands in the cookie jar. Because honestly, the thing about the NBA that trips me out is how they market themselves on the fact that they want you to believe that the games will be reffed honestly, that the referees will do their job to full integrity and full morality. At the highest level, that's a bunch of crock. Everyone knows that the referees are going to they're going to show favoritism to the big stars, and the lesser popular players, they're going to penalize them, especially if the lesser popular players open their mouth and start speaking trap. So the reality is, I don't see, the playoffs this year being at a level playing field. What I see is that the playoffs is going to be something that's going to be different. It's going to be something that, we're used to, something that we're accustomed to, which is the Miami Heat potentially going to the finals or the OKC Thunders winning the finals this year. And the reason why I'm saying that, and the reason why I have ultimately those predictions, is because the 2 golden goose of the NBA is LeBron James and Kevin Durant. The reality is, LeBron James was David Stern's golden boy. He's won 2 straight finals. There's no reason why the NBA is not going to continue to profit off of him. I mean, last week, the jersey sales just came out. He's still #1 in jersey sales, #1 in shoes, and #1 all around as a marketable NBA player. So you would have to be completely clueless. You would just have to be a dutz to think that LeBron James is not going to get the favoritism of the cause. You just have to be from a foreign planet to not think that these things are not going to happen. Now, Kevin Durant, he's the emerging guy. He is the guy that eventually is going to take over the league. I don't know if the NBA is setting the stage for it to be this year, or I don't know if the NBA is setting the stage for it to be next year. But the reality is, the changing of guards is going to happen soon. The LeBron era that we know is officially going to end pretty soon, and the Kevin Durant era is going to start, which means that Kevin Durant eventually is going to be promoted as the golden boy of the NBA. And when that happens, Kevin Durant is going to be the one to start winning. I don't know if the NBA has made the determination that Kevin Durant needs to be the golden boy as of this year by them allowing him to win the finals this year, or if it's going to take place next year. So, speaking to you as a basketball realist, I know that these playoffs are going to be rigged, and I know that, you know, ultimately the NBA is going to set it up for the most sexiest pick, which is the Miami Heat versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. This pick right here in the NBA Finals is obviously the pick that's going to generate the highest revenue for the league. It's going to be the one that's going to generate the most profits, because here you have the two best players in the NBA battling it out. Now, the NBA has a tendency every decade or so to level the playing field. The last time we've seen the NBA gave you a boring finals was in the 03-04 season, and that's when the San Antonio Spurs played the Detroit Pistons. If you go back and look, the ratings on that finals was horrible. It was not the best. But that was the last time they gave you something that didn't reflect a sexy pick. Now, the question is, the multi-billion-dollar question is this going to be the year that the NBA is going to allow it to be a level playing field? My answer to you, no. Not with LeBron's stock being as high as it is. Not with Kevin Durant having a stock that's emerging as each day passes. I can't see the Miami Heat. I can't see the Oklahoma City Thunder not going far in these playoffs. I cannot see the NBA not giving these teams super favoritism to allow them to get to a place where eventually they may be the ones playing in the NBA Finals. But I like the first round matchups. As a basketball fan, I'm excited for the NBA playoffs. But as a realist, we know what time it is. We know the NBA is going to cheat. So we just have to prepare ourselves for that. And we just have to prepare ourselves for the fact that our team is going to get snubbed. And the reality is, the team that you're picking for, if they're not part of the NBA's equation, they're not going to go really far. So this is He Knows His Sport. Checking out.